In his election campaign for the AfD, he used a vehicle with a custom license plate, LAH 1818. The L stands for the city of Leipzig, and AH and the number 18 are well-known codes referring among neo-Nazis. AH stands for Adolf Hitler. 1 and 8 stand for the first and 8 letters of the alphabet.
Oh my god! You gotta be kidding me. Oh no. Random coincidence. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you guys see fucking codes everywhere. Some people were confused when I said that Elon Musk is going through his Henry Ford era, and I mean, it's actually, I should say he's in the midst of it. It's not exactly a brand new thing. He's been, posting and retweeting a whole bunch of racists on the platform that he himself bought, and he's been making it pretty well known that he believes in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, racist conspiracy theories, racism towards black people, racism towards indigenous people, pro-colonization was good actually stuff, and, black people commit crimes because they're, their culture or they're genetically predisposed to it kind of stuff, or actually just full-blown neo-Nazi accounts getting retweeted by him constantly. As long as they're related to things like immigration, well then obviously it's because the mainstream media wants to hide that kind of stuff. And he was a little less let's just say overt back in the day. Like he might say, I'm just asking questions concerning looking into it, and now it's just full-blown. He will say what racist things come to his, apartheid-addled ketamine brain. And now he is saying that only the AfD can save Germany. German health minister calls the U.S. billionaire's intervention weeks before the election undignified and problematic. Elon Musk has caused outrage in Berlin after appearing to endorse the far-right anti-immigrant Alternative für Deutschland. Musk, who has named Donald Trump as a co-lead by a commission aimed at reducing the size of the U.S. federal government, wrote on his social media platform X, "Only the AfD can save Germany." He reposted a video by German right-wing influencer Naomi Sieb, who criticized Friedrich Merz, the leader of the conservative Christian Democrats, who has been the best chance of becoming the next German chancellor, and praised Javier Milei, the libertarian president of Argentina. The German health minister, Karl Lauterbach, has called Musk's decision to wade into German political debate weeks before the snap election undignified and highly problematic. Europe's largest economy is expected to go to the polls on February 23rd after the collapse of last month of Olaf Scholz's center-left coalition. The AfD is running in second place in the opinion polls. Elements of the party have been classed as right-wing extremists by Germany's domestic intelligence services, and mainstream parties have vowed to refuse to work with the AfD at the national level. The German government issued a perfunctory response to Musk's post, noting that it had registered it, but a spokesperson refused to add any further comment. At a press conference in Berlin, Scholz responded indirectly to the post, saying, "We have freedom of speech here. That also applies to multimillionaires. Freedom of speech also means that you're able to say things that aren't right and do not contain good political advice." The German former MEP, Elmar Brock, dismissed, I'm sorry, I'm probably really butchering these names, Musk's comment as the world domination fantasies of the American tech kings. Probably you should do a quick little, what is the AfD?
The far right is getting stronger in Germany, and the far right party, AfD, is becoming more and more radical. Germany's domestic intelligence service has warned.
Und wenn wir dereinst dieses Land regieren
If we rule this country, I promise this rabble behind me
werden, dann verspreche ich der fragwürdigen Sippschaft da hinten, dann brechen für euch
it will be a new day for you.
andere Zeiten an.
With their anti-refugee, anti-LGBTQ and anti-government politics, the Alternative for Germany party is at an all-time high in the opinion poll.
Alternative für German. No, it's Alternative für Deutschland.
The AfD accuses its political opponents of having betrayed Germany, and one of the party's stars, Björn Höcke, presents himself as Germany's savior.
Die deutsche Nation nicht verhandelbar.
Germany is non-negotiable.
Der Osten steht auf.
The East is standing up for itself. We have to take our country back.
Holen wir uns unser Land zurück. Ich danke euch.
The AfD could
Yeah, it all sounds pretty familiar.
even become the strongest political party in much of eastern Germany. Regional elections in several German states are set for 2024, and the AfD is leading polls. Other parties, as well as experts on right-wing politics, are sounding the alarm about the AfD's rise. Some have even termed it a neo-Nazi party. How much truth is there to the accusation that the AfD is not just a right-wing extremist party, but crosses the line into neo-Nazism? In Germany, the term Nazi is taken extremely seriously. The Nazis under Adolf Hitler were responsible for the Second World War and the murder of millions of Jews and people of other minorities. That's why all fascist and Nazi parties were banned in Germany after the Nazis' defeat, which ended World War II. The AfD has rejected allegations that it is a neo-Nazi party, claiming that now anyone in Germany who is against the government or against immigration is called a Nazi. When people talk about the AfD in connection with National Socialism, they are often referring to Björn Höcke. He's the parliamentary group leader in the Thuringian State Parliament and likely the AfD's most influential politician and one of its most radical. In 2010, he took an active part in a demonstration organized by neo-Nazis and recorded on camera.
Uh-oh.
It is legal to call Björn Höcke a Nazi in Germany. Courts have ruled that this is not an insult, but a statement covered under freedom of expression and a, quote, value judgment based on facts.
That's pretty wild. It had to be determined legally. Yeah, no, you legally are allowed to call this man a Nazi. Yeah, because of his presence that is clearly demonstrable at a Nazi rally that he attended. So to say so would be a value judgment based on facts. There you have it.
Höcke is a history teacher.
Yeah, imagine being legally a Nazi. Unfortunately, you can't sue people who call you Nazi, sir. No, they do have a legal precedent for being able to do that.
Thus has studied German history. He frequently refers to Germany's Nazi past, and he rejects the official culture of remembrance of the Nazis' mass murders, the Holocaust, and the crimes of the German people.
This stupid policy is still weighing us down today. We need to do a 180-degree turn on the politics of remembrance.
A 180-degree turn. This would mean that the Nazi era is no longer portrayed as criminal, but rather that it is glorified. Höcke has also on many occasions used historically loaded terms. A court indicted him earlier this year for using the slogan of the Nazi party's infamous SR Storm Division at a campaign event 2 years earlier. The slogan, "Everything for Germany." The court case is still pending. Why does Höcke position himself so radically when he knows that he will probably face strong repercussions? Right-wing extremism expert Matthias Quent has been studying Höcke and the AfD for years.
Der Zweck ist die Normalisierung von nationalsozialistischen
The point is to normalize National Socialist historical references, which also
Bezügen und damit auch Ideologie.
helps normalize the ideology. He can be sure that these statements will cause
Das ist eine Äußerung, mit der er sich sicher sein kann, dass er öffentlich anstößt, provoziert und gegen
offense and provoke opposition, so he gets attention again. Wow. I mean, kind of sounds similar to a lot of the things Trump was doing. They say that I quoted Mein Kampf. I never heard that. Never read that book. They say that Hitler said those words. Maybe he did. In a very different way. In a very different way. And you're just like, okay, but you're admitting then that you know that you're quoting Mein Kampf. So you're quoting Hitler's words. You know, the whole vibe check thing doesn't really apply here to be like, yeah, but I mean, when I say it, it hits different. All right. Let me just tell you that. And it's like, yeah, but like, there's just really no value whatsoever in, you know, taking one of history's greatest monsters and then being like, yeah, I mean, I'm using a few of his words for sure, but you know, it just hits different. It's a little bit better when I say it.
erregt. Somit hat er wieder Empörung, Aufmerksamkeit und kann dann einerseits sagen, aber ich wollte doch nur sagen,
And then he says, I only wanted good things for Germany.
alles Gute für Deutschland. Der kann sich also als Opfer stilisieren.
So he can style himself as a victim while providing affirmation. Fucking cry-bullies. Cry-bullies. Ugh, so many evil nerds are trying to destroy the world.
Unweitig zu sein, neonazistischen Anhängern und rechtsextremen Anhängern eine Bestätigung, eine ideologische
His right-wing extremist supporters.
Rechtfertigung geliefert.
Björn Höcke's actions have put the Alternative for Germany party as a whole under close monitoring by Germany's security authorities. The Domestic Intelligence Service says it has sufficient grounds to suspect that the party is unconstitutional. Intelligence Agency head Thomas Haldenwang says the AfD is a danger to democracy due to its anti-Islamic and radicalized elements.
Sehr viel an Hass und Hetze
We see a great deal of hatred and intimidation towards all kinds of minorities.
gegenüber Minderheiten aller Art.
The AfD has repeatedly denied these accusations, but they go well beyond Björn Höcke. Former Bundestag member Siegbert Djose has also come under suspicion. In his election campaign for the AfD, he used a vehicle with a custom license plate, LAH 1818. The L stands for the city of Leipzig, and AH and the number 18 are well-known codes referring among neo-Nazis. AH stands for Adolf Hitler. 1 and 8 stand for the first and 8th letters of the alphabet.
Oh my god! You gotta be kidding me. Oh no. That random coincidence. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you guys see fucking codes everywhere. Yeah, fucking it's gonna tell me that I'm trying to do some kind of 1488 thing here. Okay? It's like, well, I mean, dog, you chose this custom license plate. I mean, at the end of the day, broadcasting it pretty clearly in a campaign car, a car that you were using to advertise your political campaign. That's a little bit more than a wink, you know? This ain't a dog whistle. This is you just lying down the horn and being like, look.
A and H. So the license plate presents a coded version of Adolf Hitler 3 times. Djose has also visited the Wolf's Lair, one of Adolf Hitler's.
Like, the dude is Beetlejuicing Hitler. That's not good. Yeah, so this is the official campaign car, and on the front you might notice a couple of neat little secrets. You're like, what? Are you serious? Adolf Hitler, Adolf Hitler, Adolf Hitler? Yeah. It's a joke. It's funny. You'd get it. You don't understand.
Headquarters during World War II. He's confirmed the authenticity of this photo. Here, Djose can be seen posing with his hand on his heart in front of Hitler's bunker.
I mean, great. Not great. We are stronger than ever and will follow the path to power through to the end.
Denn je und werden unseren Weg zur Macht gehen bis zum Ende, weil wir die einzigste Partei
We are the only party that still represents German interests.
sind, die hier und Deutschland heute noch deutsche Interessen vertritt.
Es gibt ein klares
And I saw that there's a big fear of younger people, obviously, becoming quite interested in the AfD in Germany as well, especially, this might not surprise anyone, but young white men becoming increasingly interested in the AfD party. And, I think on one level, a lot of what they're doing, especially with the pretty extreme dog whistles or the photos that they can then later on be like, oh, it was taken out of context, or that's not what those numbers meant, or, well, when I was posing in front of Hitler's bunker and putting my hand over my heart, I was doing so in happiness that he was not around anymore, and this was the place where he ended his own life. That's why I was doing what I was doing, not because I was showing or pledging allegiance to Hitler or trying to say Hitler's name 3 times in my license plate. That's not what that is. Like, all of that is just very kind of cheeky winks, but I mean, these are a little less subtle. Like, they're less dog whistles and more full-blown fucking, sirens. But on the other end, it's basically like, well, if they're basically, signaling to extremists, the far right, and neo-Nazis that we are your party, that we represent your beliefs, that we do in fact love Hitler, and we want to, reignite the same thing that, brought him to power, well, then it's all just fun and memes up until the point that these people start getting into positions of power and then start actually enacting it. The same thing could be said about fucking Trump's entire, like, why is he saying poisoning the blood of the nation? Why is he quoting Mein Kampf? Why is he saying dictator day one? All that kind of stuff. Well, 'tis all fun and games up until the point where he now gets sworn in, and then, you might have an economic collapse, which then can require him to say that he needs to assume total power, authoritarian power.
Nationalsozialistisches
There's a clear National Socialist face within the AfD.
Gesicht innerhalb der AfD, Leute, die sich direkt
People who call themselves that, who place themselves into this
so
tradition,
benennen, die sich in die Tradition stellen, die Begriffe
who also use terms that come from National Socialism.
benutzen, auch gezielt Begriffe benutzen, die nationalsozialistisch geprägt sind, teilweise Äußerungen,
These are statements that are then presented as individual opinions.
die dann als Einzeldarstellungen wahrgenommen oder gerechtfertigt werden. Der Punkt ist nur, dass
But it all feeds into the AfD's overall political agenda.
es ja in die allgemeine politische Agenda, in die politische Rechtsaußenrichtung der AfD weist.
This agenda is primarily directed at asylum, migration, and German citizenship. The AfD is calling for a radical change in asylum and migration policy, including the deportation of millions of people from Germany. That's not all. Many of the party's top politicians have repeatedly and falsely claimed that not everyone who has a German passport is actually German, an idea that contradicts the constitution. Critics also say that this is an attempt to deny Muslims and blacks, in particular, the right to German citizenship. Matthias Quent says the AfD has allied itself with groups that flirt with fascism and a right-wing revolution against parliamentary democracy. The most well-known is probably the so-called Institute for State Policy. Here we see the Institute's Götz Kubitschek in a discussion with AfD politicians. The Domestic Intelligence Service has classified the Institute as right-wing extremist. The right-wing extremist institution and the AfD have a very close relationship. Current AfD co-leader Alice Weidel praised the institution as a training center for her party in 2019.
Und es ist ganz wichtig.
It is very important that we support the next generation of talent.
Herr Lehnert hat es gerade angesprochen, und dass wir unseren Nachwuchs fördern. Und der Nachwuchs
The new generation is sitting here, and I thank you all for coming.
sitzt eben hier, und ich bedanke mich bei euch für Ihr Kommen. Vielen herzlichen Dank dafür.
Thank you very much for that. Another shitty thing too is that, like, it's all fun and memes, I guess, for maybe young people who read about some of these things and think like, well, life is pretty shit right now, so maybe what we need is some pretty radical change and some chaos to be thrown into the midst of everything. Also, I think billionaires like Elon Musk, for example, who are now openly praising the AfD, they're really detached from reality. They have billionaire brain. It all turns them into hollow husks who don't see human beings as human beings. They all see humans as numbers, just ones, zeros, and potentially profitable little meat bags that they can extract labor from. That's how they start to see the world. That's why none of them can actually laugh normally. I think at a certain point, once you pass a certain amount of millions and you get into the billions, like, you can just see the souls have left the bodies, and they just become these really utterly bizarre people who are just like, ha ha, and you're just like, well, that's not the way a human sounds. That's weird, Mr. Bezos. Why do you laugh like that? All billionaires do. Well, that's kind of sad. And it's got a kind of a sad history too. Like Henry Ford, I'm sure you all know, he was an American industrialist, business magnate, founder of the Ford Motor Company. He was a pioneer in creating automobiles, making them affordable for the middle-class Americans through a system that became known as Fordism. But maybe lesser known is that he was also a massive anti-Semite. He promoted the League of Nations, but in the 1920s, he promoted anti-Semitism through his newspaper, The Dearborn Independent, and the book, The International Jew. He opposed his country's entry into World War II and served for a time on the board of the America First Committee. There's pictures of him, shaking hands with actual Nazis. The International Jew, if you were unaware, is a 4-volume set of anti-Semitic booklets and pamphlets originally published and distributed through the 1920s by the Dearborn Publishing Company, an outlet owned by Henry Ford, the American industrialist. The booklets were a collection of articles originally serialized by Ford's Dearborn Independent newspaper. Around the 1920s, the Dearborn Incident was languishing in subscriptions and losing money. Ford and his personal secretary, Ernest G. Leibold, began to discuss a series of articles on the, quote, Jewish question. While it was Leibold who claimed to have come up with the title, The International Jew, he turned to the Walking Dictionary, William J. Cameron, for most of the writing. For 91 issues, the weekly paper announced a variety of stories featuring supposed evilness of Jewish influence. Editor E.G. Pipp left the Independent in 1920 in disgust with the planned anti-Semitic articles, which began in May. He was replaced by Cameron. While Ford did not personally write the articles, he expressed his opinions verbally to Cameron and Leibold. Cameron had the main responsibility for expanding these opinions into articles. Leibold was responsible for collecting more material to support the articles. The most popular and aggressive stories were then chosen to be reprinted into 4 volumes called The International Jew. The first volume was published in November 1920 as an anthology of articles that was published in the Independent from May 22nd to October 2nd, 1920. The original print runs for the first edition was estimated between 200,000 and 500,000 copies. They were never copyrighted. The International Jew therefore had no control over anyone else publishing it themselves. It was translated into 16 languages, including 6 editions in Germany between 1920 and 1922. There's obviously a huge amount of anti-Semitism, conspiracies involving Jewish control over a variety of things, from international banking to the media to politics, similar to a lot of the anti-Semitism that you'll see promoted today by people like Nick Fuentes, and obviously disgusting, horrifying, and this was being done by a person whose name, still exists on the front of vehicles to this day. So it is a scary thing to see people promoting the far right and the far right party in Germany.
I'm at the Brandenburg Gate in the heart of Berlin, a city where the Nazis were finally defeated in 1945 and Adolf Hitler took his own life. Now something unthinkable is happening. A nationalist, anti-immigrant, far-right party is on the rise here. Its leaders use Nazi slogans and sound like descendants of history's tyrants. It's a party at a German resort, and listen to what they're chanting.
Deutschland den Deutschen!
Deutschland for Deutsche, Germany for the Germans. These young people are singing Nazi slogans. Ausländer raus means foreigners out. And this is the Nazi salute, a chilling example of how the far right is coming out of the shadows in Germany. The country has strict laws banning Nazi phrases, gestures, and symbols, but they're increasingly being ignored. This is Chemnitz, a former East German city known as a hub for extremists. Uwe Chubala runs Shalom Restaurant here and tells me anti-Semitism that used to exist beneath the surface is now out in the open.
100%, also it's 100%.
And it's the worst it's been, he says, since the Nazi era. A pig's head marked with the Star of David was left on his doorstep, and a group of men attacked his restaurant with rocks. Violent anti-immigrant groups roamed Chemnitz, threatening and attacking people after a local man was stabbed and killed by a Syrian.
In the Second World War was not that long ago. Have people forgotten?
Das weiß ich nicht.
I don't know, he says. It's not just anti-Semitism. Supporters of the far right believe Germany is no longer German enough, that too many immigrants and asylum seekers have been allowed in. And a new far-right party, the AfD, is capitalizing on that. Formed in 2013, polling shows it's now the second most popular party in Germany. It's poised to win power in 3 German states and projected to make big gains in the European Parliament elections this week.
Panzerfahrzeugen geschützt werden müssen.
Its most prominent member is Björn Höcke. He's been fined for using the Nazi phrase Alles für Deutschland, everything for Germany, a motto that was engraved on stormtroopers' daggers. Höcke, a history teacher, claims he didn't know. His critics call him a straight-up Nazi.
Vertreibung von Millionen von Menschen.
Then this explosive documentary revealed a secret meeting of AfD members and known neo-Nazis.
Are meetings of neo-Nazis in Germany common?
Neo-Nazis meet in Germany all the time, but the thing that made our investigation special is that we could show that neo-Nazis meet with high-ranking people of the AfD, of this party that pretends not to be a neo-Nazi party at all.
On the agenda, according to investigative journalists, a master plan for Germany.
And that master plan said that they want to get rid of basically everybody who has a migrant background.
And how many people were they talking about?
Millions.
The response was outrage across the country. Tens of thousands took to the streets. A firewall, they said, against the far right. These two men belong to a group called Generation Identity, which Germany's domestic security agency has classified as extremist.
Patriotisch bedeutet mit.
We're just patriotic youth, they tell me.
You know what your critics say and fear, right? And that you are, in fact, neo-Nazis just with a friendlier face.
Das ist eine sehr schwere Anschuldigung.
That is a serious accusation, they say, which our critics cannot back up with evidence.
Dort eine Verbindung zu ziehen ist.
Ultimately, we want to preserve our people and our identity that has been built up for centuries, no more and no less. Not far away at Shalom Restaurant is Uwe Chubala.
Is peace in Europe guaranteed?
Tja. I don't know.
A country conscious of its...
The North Face plug, yeah, that is weird. I wonder if that does have anything to do with, like, you know, the visits by Lauren Southern or anything like that. A connection between the Canadian far right and the German far right.
Nazi past, now deeply anxious about the future.
After I go to university.
Anas Modamani's extraordinary story is a tale of how Germany has changed and how this one selfie changed his life. He fled the war in Syria and arrived in Germany at age 17.
It was a wonderful time for me. People were so happy to welcome us. I felt very much at home.
That was 2015. Germany's Angela Merkel famously welcomed more than 1 million refugees that year, mostly Syrians. In 2022, the EU accepted 5.1 million immigrants, and Germany has taken in more than any country in Europe. So many, Berlin's enormous Tempelhof airport, where Hitler held huge rallies and which later became a lifeline for West Berlin during the Cold War, was turned into a shelter to house them. Meant to be temporary, 9 years later, 1,500 people from 20 countries still live here.
I want to change my life.
Hassan Sisi arrived 4 months ago from Sierra Leone. He shares this shipping container with 3 other men.
And what do you hope to find in Germany?
Yeah, it's opportunity, and I know I will make it in life.
It won't be easy. The mood has hardened. Immigration is a huge economic pressure, and recent polling shows 86% of Germans are worried about it. Far-right groups such as Generation Identity are seizing on that.
Komplexere Geschichte. Wir haben in Deutschland.
We have in Germany and in Europe a migration crisis.
Their solution? Remigration, forcing people to go back where they came from and not allowing others in. They hired this boat in the Mediterranean. Their message, especially to migrants from the Middle East and Africa, you will not make Europe home. They believe no one who gets to Germany by passing through another country should be allowed to stay.
So that would mean Germany would have no refugees then? Because
Exactly.
Germany's not connected to any of those countries in the Middle East.
Exactly what we say, yeah.
Anti-immigrant parties like Germany's AfD could win as many as a quarter of the seats in this week's elections for European Parliament. Among its slogans, Save the World, let's start with Germany.
Before you invite someone over for dinner, you have to first make sure you have a full fridge.
And the guy who took that happy selfie with Angela Merkel, it made him the most recognizable refugee in Germany, which turned him into a target of the far right. Fake stories and doctored photos were posted linking him to terrorist attacks. For a time, he was afraid to be seen on the street.
I have lived with racism and hatred. I know what it feels like.
He's a German citizen now with a good job, grateful for his new life. but well aware it would be much harder if he were arriving in Europe.
Wow. Yeah, I'm assuming that, Musk is going to downplay all of it too, because as much as, there's a lot of people pointing out, obviously, like, this is pretty fucked up for him to be supporting this party. There's also, as you could probably, if you go on to the Everything app, aka the Nazi app on Twitter, his comments are filled with people, or anyone who's basically calling him out, with blue check marks being like, what about them makes them far right? Oh my God, of course the media would call them far right. They call everything far right. They call everything they don't like a Nazi. Yeah, no surprise there. Fake news. Musk had previously expressed backing for other anti-immigration forces across Europe, including the UK's Reform Party and Italy Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. He's also previously voiced enthusiastic support for Milei, who in his first year as Argentina's president has cut public spending and axed tens of thousands of public sector jobs and plunged many households into economic despair. Alice Weidel, head of the AfD, who is standing as its candidate for chancellor, reposted Musk's comment, writing to him, "Yes, you are perfectly right, Elon Musk." Referring to a recent interview she gave on Trump with the news organizing Bloomberg, Weidel said that Musk must note how socialist Angela Merkel is ruining our country, how the Soviet Union destroyed the country's economic backbone, and malfunctioning Germany. She wished Musk and Trump a happy Christmas and all the best for the upcoming tenure. Last year, Musk criticized the German government and his struggle to tackle illegal immigration as one of the main topics of the election campaign agenda. He's also fired off personal jibes against Schultz and his economic minister, Robert Habeck. This week, Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, posted a photo of himself and the party's treasurer meeting Musk and Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and claimed Musk was prepared to give him financial support to bolster his party's chances of becoming the government. So, fucked up shit. I bet you already drink coffee and love coffee, but you're probably worried if your coffee has blood in it. Not literal blood, but conflict zone blood. Did you want to buy coffee that is not only going to be delicious, it's going to arrive right on your door, it helps a little bit fund the serfs, and also it's end-to-end indigenous owned. That's why I partnered with Solstice Coffee, and hey, if you order by going to serfscoffee.com, they even include a free sticker, which is pretty awesome. So there's really no reason to actually not replace the coffee you already drink with delicious ethical coffee. That's why you should check out serfscoffee.com.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/theserfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Poppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Travis McClinton, Trincell, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.